Hello and welcome to my first ever FIFA Tactics video. Hopefully this will be the first of many in my tactical recreation series where I intend to replicate real life tactics in FIFA as true to life as possible. Now, before we dive into it, there were two things I need to say. Firstly, this tactic was tested and played on my own personal sliders, which I've created to try and make it a more realistic experience when playing FIFA. They should be on the screen now. While I doubt it makes any significant difference to the tactic, I would highly recommend playing with sliders for a more realistic experience. OS community sliders are a great place to start if you're not really sure how to go about it. Secondly, I want to give a massive shout out to GeographyFIFA and the members of his Discord server. He's an absolute legend. He provided me with this platform to share my tactics in his Discord server. He's just a great guy all around. Both his YouTube channel and the Discord server are linked in the description. Please go check out his channel and feel free to join the Discord community. It's a great bunch of career mode nuts and we'd love to have you. I actually asked the server for suggestions for my first tactical video and Arteta's Arsenal was the most popular, so here we are. Now, obviously recently Lacazette has replaced Aubameyang because Aubameyang decided he would rather get a tattoo in Barcelona than attend training the night before the game as a team captain. So that's a bit of a mess, but they still enjoyed quite a good run of form before that happened. They've been just as good since, with Laka playing through the middle, but playing a different role. So I'll walk you through the instructions for both. As far as other personnel changes go, so I'll start with the formation, but as far as other personnel changes go, the big two changes that this season will probably be between Smith Rowe and Martinelli on the left, although Smith Rowe sometimes plays through the middle as well, and between Tavares and, I've probably messed that name up, and Tierney in left back. Now, Tierney and Tavares, completely the same instructions at left back, don't worry about that. Smith Rowe versus Martinelli on left wing, completely the same. However, Smith Rowe versus Odegaard through the middle, you will want Smith Rowe on get into the box for crosses, whereas Odegaard will be on balance. But I'll walk you through that when I get to that. Okay, so spoiler alert, I don't end up walking you through it, but the gist of it is that Smith Rowe is just more of a goal-scoring threat than Odegaard, whereas Odegaard prefers to sit back at the edge of the box sometimes and look for runners to feed through. Smith Rowe tends to be that runner who's being fed through. That's really all you need to know. So, you've got your 4-2-3-1 wide for starters. There are a couple of changes you want to make off the bat. So the first one you want to make, you want to switch Kieran Tierney to left wing back. And similarly, you want to switch Smith Rowe to left wing. Now what this does by itself, nothing. But when we get to the instructions, this will sort of allow you to form that 3-2-5 shape almost in the build-up. Now Arteta seems to favour. It's very Pep Guardiola-esque. So, 4-3-1, you've got your left wing back, you've got your left wing. Now, onto the actual tactics, you'll want to start with a pressure on a heavy touch. Now, Arteta, it's not a low block, and it's not quite a mid block, because he does actually have the forwards press, but it's very compact. It is a very narrow, not so aggressive, not passive, but it's not aggressive, defensive formation that really forces teams to play out wide around it. Width, so that follows, you want to have 10 width. Depth, I messed around with this a bit. This probably puts it a little bit higher than you would want it to. You probably want it between 50 to 60, but I have settled on 65. Oh, that's not meant to click. I have settled on 65 for the sake of allowing the forwards to actually press. So getting Odegaard, but mainly Orba or Laka, whoever's that striker, to actually try and pressure the centre backs and force a mistake, which then activates that pressure on heavy touch. With the 10 width as well, in the gameplay playing in the background, you will probably see me do this a fair few times. When that does force the opposition out wide, particularly in their own half, I will activate a team press. That is down on your D-pad, followed by left on your D-pad. And that's what Arsenal do. They force a team out wide, and then they use the sideline as almost a barrier. And it sort of forces the opposition to have like less angles to work with. They can't turn the ball. In a full 360, they've only got 180 to work with when they're against the touchline. So that sort of allows, when you activate that team press there, like Arsenal do, they do kind of squish oppositions back into that sort of corner, cut out the few passing options they have, and then pounce on that. And that works great with the pressure on heavy touch as well, because even if they do get out of that, it should activate that pressure automatically. Now, in possession is where the fun happens. So you've got slow build-up, and you've got in the build-up play, and your chance creation is on possession. This is fairly self-explanatory. They are one of the highest possession-based teams in the league. Can't remember the exact ranking, but like it's Chelsea, City, Arsenal, and Brighton, I believe, are head and shoulders above the rest in terms of possession. Obviously, City are head, shoulders, and toes above the rest, but that's another story. And this, while they still have runners coming in behind, that's done by the instructions. What this keeps is the intricate passes, that keeps the one-touch passes, and allows you to sort of retain possession, and if needs be, pass it back around the back and around, almost like a horseshoe shape, around the box until that opening is created, which can be boring to watch, but it's how Arteta plays, and it's not boring to play per se. Width, I brought down to 30. Usually possession-based systems would be 25, 10, 20, even 15, for something super ridiculous. But I've pushed it up to 30 because Arteta actually does focus a lot of play down the wings. The possession is like I mentioned, that horseshoe shape. They do kind of keep possession around the wings, the wing areas, looking for that cross. And so this just pushes Odegaard and then Jack or Partey, whoever's push up, just wide enough to help support that. Players in box, you're going to go all the way up to 8, and this is basically how they play. When the cross is on, they throw a lot of men into the box. When we talk about that 3-2-5, you will generally get 3 or 4 of that 3-2-5 making well, one of that 3-2-5 is probably crossing the ball in, but of the other 4, one will possibly tuck to the edge of the box, but generally the other 3 do get into the box. Corners and free kicks, I've bumped up to 4 and 4. Free kicks can be 3 or 4, it depends whether you shoot from free kicks or cross it in. Obviously if you're shooting, keep it on 3. If you're crossing in, you want 4 for the advantage, the player advantage in the box to win more headers, or loose balls. Now they don't necessarily have more players in the box than other teams, but they have some of the most goals in the league. I think second in the league from set pieces. Don't quote me on that. And this just sort of helps to replicate that a bit more. It was in one of my earlier testing matches, I managed to score a header from Gabriel, who was completely unmarked in the box, and I doubt he would have been from a corner. Sorry, I doubt he would have been if this was down at 3. So leave that on 4. So instructions. This is where we really turn that 4-2-3-1 into that 3-2-5. So, start from the bottom. Goalkeeper. Sweeper keeper comes for crosses. Fairly self-explanatory. Comes for crosses is one that you're going to always want to have on. I doubt I will ever do a tactic without comes for crosses on. But Ramsdale is one where it's actually completely accurate. He does claim a lot of crosses. Because that's Arsenal do try and force teams wide to cross it in, and because that's his strength. Sweeper keeper, once again, fairly self-explanatory. They don't play a high line, but Ramsdale is very much that sort of sweeper keeper. He plays around with the ball a lot with his feet. He's very good with his feet. Anyway, Ramsdale comes across sweeper keeper. There's 2 centre halves. More often than not, you won't want to change anything with 2 centre halves. I did play with Gabriel on aggressive interceptions because that is how he plays. He is that more aggressive centre back. It's the classic dog and cat centre duo, or there's another name for that I've forgotten. But you know the type, like a Ramos would push up and be aggressive, and a Varane would drop back and sweep behind. Stopper sweeper, that's the one. Gabriel is your stopper, your dog, and White is your sweeper, your cat. But it doesn't do much on FIFA. FIFA really needs to add more versatility for centre-backs instruction. I feel like, particularly, this is just a side rant, but particularly in terms of being able to play with a libero. Anyway, so you don't have to change anything for the two centre-backs, but Gabriel I did play with on aggressive interceptions. Doesn't not work, doesn't necessarily work. You can play around with it. Tierney at left wing-back, join the attack overlap. I will probably put an infographic on your screen now to show what I'm talking about with the 3-2-5 with labels. But Tierney pushes all the way up. He pushes way up, which allows Smith Rowe to cut inside. If you have any crosses coming in from the left side of the pitch, they're going to be from Tierney. Arteta tells him to bomb forward. In the more recent 4-4-1-1, less so, but that was more of a personnel. That formation was played due to personnel and wasn't necessarily his preferred system. Arteta's, that is. So, join the attack and overlap. Tomiyasu, on the other hand, stay back while attacking and inverted runs. And of course, he's not even a wing-back. Now, I want to note, stay back while attacking doesn't mean he'll never attack. That's not what it does. Because he still has that medium attacking, attacking work rate. He still has that medium attacking work rate. And even with a low attacking work rate, the players will still sometimes, rarely, but sometimes push up. Why? Because on FIFA, instructions don't mean guarantees. You'll see that in the game sometimes. Our players who are told to get in behind can sometimes be very stagnant. Players, especially with Tierney, with joint attacking overlap, sometimes you'll hang back. There's not much you can do about it. So, stay back attacking won't make him always stay back, but you do want him to stay back more often than not because he drops in to form that back three in possession, which is also supplemented by the inverted runs. Once again, he will sometimes overlap, and he'll still, in real life, and he'll still do that in game with the inverted run type. But this is generally how you want him to set up. Now, for the double pivot, this is one that I've messed around with a lot because what you'll find with a lot of double pivots in midfield is that they communicate to each other and take it turns. One goes up, one stays, then the other drops back, and the one who stayed will then go up. But you can't really do that in FIFA. If you really wanted to, you could make, an attacking instruction where their roles are swapped and just keep hitting left and right on the D-pad when you want to do that. But that's painful. So I wouldn't bother. I would play the bet. Ah, my god, I forgot to put Xhaka in, so sorry about that. I wouldn't do that. I want to play to your player's strengths, and I think looking at Xhaka and Partey, it's pretty obvious which one is a better deep line playmaker and which one is a better, more box-to-box player. So on both, you're going to have cut passing lanes, standard interceptions, and cover centers, and so cutting passing lanes because they do play a lane press, not a man press, but as you see in the game, I was probably getting a bit frustrated because cut passing lanes doesn't seem to work as well in FIFA 22. Which is awkward because man mark also doesn't work in FIFA 22 and hasn't worked in any FIFA I've played. So there's not really anything you can do for defensive behavior that seems to work. Could try balance. I didn't test that. I'm thinking I maybe should have. But at the end of the day, they do play a lane press, and so to supplement that, you want to play with cut passing lanes on both. And cover center on both. Now, Xhaka, he's a deep line playmaker, but you don't want him on free roam. So you want him to stay back, because you want Partey being the one sometimes pushing up. But you don't play Xhaka on what's called free roam, even though he's a deep playmaker. You play him on drift wide. And this is once again for the very beginning of Arsenal's build-up play, when they push Tierney up. They don't form that 3-2-5 immediately. What you will actually see is Tomiyasu stay in the right back position and Xhaka push out into the left back position, really. And that's how they sort of build up, especially from goal kicks is the main time you will see that. They have Xhaka push all the way out to the left, then they send Tierney up. And then Smith Rowe cuts in to the inside. And then, it eventually turns into that 3-2-5 once they've sort of beaten the press. But yes, so you want him on drift wide, because since he's on the left, he will drift to the left when you put him on drift wide. And that's important for later when I talk about Odegaard. But then, yes, for Partey, you're still going to have cut passing lanes. You're not going to mess with his positioning. You want him to stick to position. Partly, again, because of that very build-up play at the very beginning, when they're trying to beat a press. Partey will tuck into the left, just in between where you can see, just in between these two here where you can see them, at the tip of the D of the box. Party will sort of stand and form that triangle with Gabriel and White, and that, combined with Tomiyasu and Xhaka out wide, allows them to, and of course Ramsdale, who's really good with his feet, allows them to play out of the press more often than not. So you want him on cover center, stick to position, cross lanes, and then balance attack. The reason why he's not on get forward is because then he will get into the box for every single attack, and that's not what you want. That's not what you want in the slightest. You don't often really even want him getting in the box. The problem is you can't tell a defensive midfielder to stay in the edge of the box. You have to switch them to centre midfielder to that, and that I tested that centre midfielders didn't work as good. So you're just going to have him on balance attack. He'll push up, provide a passing option, and won't get into the box too often. If he does get into the box, whatever, have a ping. I'll go on to Ødegaard. No, I'll go on to Saka next, because Saka is an interesting one. Saka forms the other side of that 5 in the 3-2-5. And you'll note that on one side of that is a fullback, but on the other side is a winger. And a left-footed winger at that point. Now, before you tell me, no, Saka cuts inside, sorry, Saka's on stay wide, come back on defence, get in behind, and into the box for cross. Now, I'll walk you through those. Come back in defence, fairly self-explanatory, drops back to create that narrow 4-2-3-1 in defence. That's more of a 4-4-1-1 in defence, but you can't do defensive formations in FIFA, which is tragic. So you want to come back on defence, get in behind his fairly self-explanatory, he's rapid, and get into the box for cross. Once again, fairly self-explanatory, with 8 players in the box, he's one of the ones that you do generally want getting in. But stay wide, before you tell me, no, Saka cuts inside onto his left foot, you're right, but he does that when he's on the ball, and you control the player on the ball. So you do that manually with Saka. But off the ball, he is the widest player on the pitch alongside Tierney. Saka pushes all the way out to the right touchline and Tierney all the way out to the left. And so you want to replicate that with stay wide. Getting into the box will also help with those curved runs off the ball when you do need them, because they do generally tend to happen further up the field as opposed to on, with possession as opposed to on a counter. So this does actually work really well for Saka. Now I'll move to Ødegaard. He's going to be on comeback on defence. I'm not going to repeat myself. Low block. You're going to have him on drift wide and balanced crossing runs. Now, I messed around with get into the box and balanced crossing runs. Get into the box honestly works better. So if you do use that, I won't tell anyone. But realistically, out of the sort of this front 4 here, if anyone's staying at the edge of the box, it is Ødegaard. So for the sake of replicating Arteta in all his glory, we're going to keep on balanced crossing runs. Now, drift wide, once again, and one that I really toyed with. I really toyed around with Ødegaard's instructions. He drops deep to receive the ball too much for me to not play him on free roam. I felt that way very strongly, and so I kept playing him on free roam. But the problem with having him on free roam and come back on defence in such a possession-based system meant that he didn't really play as that sort of that arrowhead, that spearhead, that number 10. And while he doesn't necessarily do that in real life, he does drop into that more sort of number 8 role sometimes. It created such a flat midfield 3 that was really not fun to play with. There was no real ball progression, especially through the middle. It was just kept passing it around the back, could not work it upfield. Putting him on drift wide, however, prevented that, and also supplements that I'm banging on about, that 3-2-5, because once again, I'll put the graphic on the screen now. He is the right interior of that 5 at front, while Smith Rowe is the left, and so realistically he's out here, but you don't want to play him in right attacking midfield, because that creates a very messy formation. So you're going to leave him on drift wide, because with Smith Rowe cutting inside here and Tierney bombing forward, and Saka being wide on the right, the space for him to push to drift wide will way more often be out on the right than the left, and so he will naturally fill that role, luckily. But sometimes he won't. That's all good. Once again, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. This isn't, Football Manager. We're very limited. Now, Smith Rowe, back on defence, cut inside, get in behind, get into the box for cross. this is fairly self-explanatory. It's your classic inside forward, or well, some call it an inverted winger, but realistically he's an inside forward with Tierney overlapping. Cut inside, Tierney goes in the outside, he goes into the inside, and creates, the bit, exploits that half space, I'll say. Getting behind, once again, that's how that's how the chances are created in really any possession-based system. You're going to have players on getting behind, because it's not pass, 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 left, right, left, right, left, right. That's not going to create goals. That's not going to work the ball to the pitch. That's not what possession-based systems do. They keep the ball, work it upfield, work it through the thirds, and in the final third, then they look for those angled runs, those, cutting-edge runs into the half space to then play someone through. Rarely will you try to see them, pass, 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 one touch their way all the way through into the box with stagnant players. It doesn't happen. It needs runners. So get in behind and get into the box for cross. Once again, fairly self-explanatory. Now, Aubameyang is going to be on his very different instructions to Lacazette. He's going to be on balance with, get in behind, stay forward, and aggressive interceptions. Now, his balance with is an awkward one, because I was tempted to play him on stay central. Because FIFA stay central isn't that central fifth of the field. It's like, as long as it's in line with the box, the full 18-yard box in that section of the field, that middle segment, it's considered stay central, and that's where the strikers, they'll still drift from left to right in that section, and that includes the half spaces. The half spaces are, for those of you who don't know, really the half spaces are like between the edge of the 6-yard box and the edge of the 18-yard box. So this kind of area is your half space. And so that is part of, when you say stay central, they still do fill the half spaces. But something that you'll see that Arteta seems to think, which is why he sort of played Aubameyang on the wing a lot last season, he seems to prefer Aubameyang curving his runs from outside into the half space, rather than inside out into the half space, which it makes sense. It allows him to cut inside onto his stronger left foot. And so you actually have him on bounce with, not drift wide because he is still the focal point, but you have him on bounce with that allows him to curve that run from the left inside. Get in behind, he's a poacher, he plays on the last shoulder, which is supplemented by stay forward. And aggressive interceptions, this is to allow that sort of, that front two, that Odegaard and Aubameyang or Lacazette, to press from the front despite having that narrow block, and that's where that 65 depth is coming from. With the aggressive interceptions, it actually allows you to force the heavy touch that activates the team press automatically. Now, I will quickly swap in Lacazette for you to show you what his instructions look like. So he's going to be on stay central, and he's also going to be on stay forward and aggressive interceptions. But I tried playing him on basic defense support, but the problem was he still came way too deep because he naturally has a high work rate. So what you want, if you have a different striker, someone with a medium defensive work rate who's filling that same role, you'll probably want them on basic defense support, because you still do want them, dropping back to pressure the man on the ball, or pushing forward to actually applying pressure to the man on the ball. But with Lacazette, he naturally does that anyway, so you can play him on stay forward and he will still do that. And then while allowing him to stay as a focal point. Aggressive interceptions, same as Aubameyang. I tried both target man and false 9. However, on this formation, you're going to have to stick to stay central and false 9, which does still replicate his role pretty well. And with that being said, I do believe that is absolutely everyone. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. I put a lot of, effort into researching, planning, testing, drafting this to get it to a point where I was happy with it. And so I would really, really appreciate it if you could, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, share me with any of your FIFA-loving friends. And once again, please join GeographyFIFA's Discord server and subscribe to GeographyFIFA on YouTube. Absolutely amazing guy. cannot, thank him enough for, giving me a platform in that Discord server to sort of share my tactics, grow my love for it, practice it, and get to a point where I was actually suggested by people in that server to make this channel in the first place. So, with all that being said, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.